I wanted to make a quick video to talk about escalating. Basically, we often get into a situation with our activism where things aren't working. What we're doing isn't having the desired effect, and it's not getting us to where we need to go. So the question always is, what do you do in that situation? What's next? And I think that for the most part, our movements have gotten stuck in that place and have continued to use the same tactics, essentially, when things don't work. And we've seen we've seen some innovations and some creative stuff, some switching of tactics for sure, but often it's followed pretty predictable patterns, from electoral politics to mass protest to nonviolent direct action, and sort of back in a circle again with education and so on, consciousness raising woven throughout. And I've just been reflecting a lot on what comes next. What do you do when you can't win using those methods? And I've been reading a book about the Oka crisis. I'll grab it. It's right here. It's called The People of the Pines: The Warriors and the Legacy of Oka. And this is a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. And basically, it's a great story because it's just looking exactly into a situation like that, where you have people who are faced with a fight that they can't win using the established channels, and that they've been losing for 500 years through the established channels. And so they started out with a nonviolent occupation of this pine forest that was threatened, and it escalated from there. They brought in their weapons and engaged in some shootouts with the police, and they had a great deal of success. It certainly wasn't smooth and it wasn't easy, and this book details a lot of the the different factions in the community, the divisions outside the community, the racist violent mobs, the police, the army who were called in, the different federal and provincial politicians and their stances. So it's really complex, but I think it's a fascinating story because it's just an example of people who decided that they wanted to win and that they weren't willing to just get arrested and walk away. And I think that that's a question that we all need to think about. And the news today here is that Trump has approved the Keystone XL and the Dakota Access Pipeline. He hasn't approved them, but he signed executive orders to streamline the approval process and fast track them, basically. So, horrible news, obviously. Those are only two projects among hundreds and thousands of fossil fuel projects worldwide, but they're very symbolic and big. And so now we're faced with a situation where, despite all this nonviolent resistance that has taken place, it's not necessarily working. So I think we need to continue that, no doubt, and it could work. Nonviolent resistance, no doubt, could continue to work in these cases. But, we need more. Often if we're able to stop one project, because it is symbolic, it gets the movement going, it captures the imaginations of thousands and millions of people and is able to bring everyone together to fight this, representative evil project. Oftentimes, the industrialists are able to just reroute their capital into another project. You see the expansion. When Keystone XL was originally denied, you just saw a huge expansion in oil by rail shipments. And so, the other news that I saw just the other day is from northern Alberta, and the headline is, "Vandals used heavy equipment to pull a chunk of pipeline out of the ground in northern Alberta." And I think that's great. I support that action. It sounds like almost $1 million worth of damage to the pipeline. Nobody was arrested. There was no harm to anybody, and they did some serious damage. So, if you want to talk about winning and escalating, then I think we need to support a wide range of things, starting with electoral politics. I think a lot of people probably right now who didn't vote in this past election are beating themselves over the head right now as they're seeing what Trump is doing. And certainly, the alternative wouldn't have been much better on a lot of issues. Still a capitalist, still an imperialist, still a warmonger, still pro-corporate, still all these things down the list. But, there are some tangible differences. And, as I was listening to Vince Emanuele's radio show yesterday, and as he says so eloquently, we're going to be putting out fires for the next 4 years with Donald Trump, because he's just going to be doing so much damage. And activists, revolutionaries, we're just going to be putting out fires. So, we don't have the room to become more proactive in our organizing. Or, it's hard to find that room. So I think we're going to have to try to find it. And we're going to have to try and seize those opportunities where we can to escalate and really take a stand. And decide that we're going to do whatever it takes in order to win.